demands your devotion. Let us all unite to uphold them and make them great and strong. We are all involved. We are all involved. We are all involved in building a motherland.
Colleagues of the media, let me thank you for your quick and prompt response to our call. This morning we have some very important matters that we have to put out. And we will, from the outset, plead with you that you get the clarity of our message this morning. And we wish that you communicate same to the Ghanaian people. So the presser will be led by our able leader who will communicate our position on some key national issues. Without much ado, let's listen to the veritable minority leader. I thank you. Leader.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, fellow citizens of Ghana, we want to thank you, especially the media, for coming to listen to us on this short notice. We wish we did not have to call you this early, but tomorrow this house rises. And before it rises, the majority is plotting something that should alarm every Ghanaian who still believes in this constitution. We are here to tell you exactly what happened and exactly what the law says. On Monday, the Right Honorable Speaker referred 5 names to the appointment committee, 2 nominees for ministerial office, 3 nominees for the Supreme Court of Ghana. That referral came on the very first day of this emergency recall. The recall ends tomorrow, Friday. The majority now wants all 5 nominees vetted, reported on, and approved before the House rises. We say no, and we say it with the Constitution and our own standing orders in our hands. We say no because the people of Ghana must participate in the process. We say no because as minority, we are here to fight for the interests of the Ghanaian people. Our stance is not a partisan stand. It is a stand for the people of Ghana. What we would accept, my dear members of the media, on the 2 ministerial nominees, we are ready to engage. The Honorable Ayariga, Member of Parliament for Boko Central, has been nominated for local government, chieftaincy and religious affairs. Dr. Zaneto Ajiman Rawlings, Member of Parliament for Kole Klote, has been nominated for environment, science and technology. Article 78(1) of the Constitution gives Parliament the duty to approve ministers. We take that duty seriously. We will vet them fairly and within a sensible time. On this, we have a precedence. The precedence is, on a previous occasion, there was a proper motion, there was a waiver, and because they are for the purpose of governance, those ministries would need a political appointee to supervise and ensure government business goes on. We are not here to stampede that process. Therefore, we believe that because of their own standing in the House, we can take them today. Now, on the 3 nominees, our answer is firm and is in accordance with the NDC's own principal stand in 2024. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, for the records, in 2024, President Akufo-Addo brought 2 nominees. My respected colleague who was the acting chair, there was an advert that was placed in the papers and they were given 10 days within which to appear. The NDC led by Dr. Kasiel Atuforsen as minority leader, Honorable Kwame Abuja as Minority Chief Whip, and the current Majority Leader, Honorable Mahama Ayariga, led the charge on behalf of the NDC. They opposed the vetting of the nominees. They physically prevented the vetting of the nominees. Their argument was that the 10 days was not enough, that the public must be given the opportunity to participate fully in the process. Therefore, we should suspend. Ladies and gentlemen, as Democrats as we are, then in majority, we listened to them and we suspended the vetting to allow for the 14 days minimum notice in the public space. Thereafter, they participated in the vetting. We listened to them. We engaged. We believe that democracy thrives where parties are able to engage each other. That is what we did. Even after the process, they refused to participate in the final process of approval on the floor. We did not fight with them. Today, they are here claiming that just 3 days after announcement of nominees on the House floor, there must be vetting and approval. We do not accept. We see that the majority is trampling on the rules of the House. And we want the country to know the actual words of our own standing orders, because the majority has not been honest about them. The NDC majority has not been honest about the rules. Order 21711 requires appointment committee to report to Parliament within 3 days. But if you read that correctly, it does not mean 3 days after referral. So they are wrong if they insist that just 3 days after the referral, there must be vetting. They are wrong.
Enona wo your man papa, enona wo your dog, odo ma woman, enora na yeshusha, odo ma woman, enora riya, odo ma woman, enora na yeshusha, odo ma woman, enora riya.
Order 2674 tells us how long a committee normally has to report on any matter referred to it. And Order 2172 requires the chairperson, the ranking, and 2 other members of the relevant subject matter committee to join the appointment committee for every single nominee. Order 21710 requires nominees' names to be published so the public can send in memoranda. Order 265 set quorum at 1/3 of committee. Order 226 let a committee decide to sit in public or in private and requires it to reconvene when business is not finished at one sitting. Our emphasis is on the requirement to publish the names of nominees for the public to send memoranda. Ladies and gentlemen, we, the NPP minority, would want to make it clear. We are not opposed to the nomination. We are not opposed to the nomination. We believe that it is the president's constitutional mandate to engage in that process. But let us quickly point out to one fact, that the NDC is an unprincipled political party. It does not believe in political principle. It is inconsistent and it acts out of political convenience. You may recall that in 2024, one of their arguments was that the nomination of 2 justices to the Supreme Court amounted to the packing of the courts. But since they came, if we add these 3 nominees to the already 7 they have nominated, which Parliament approved, it makes it 10. Does that also amount to the packing of the courts? We want the Ghanaian people to judge that our friends are never consistent, they are never principled, they only act out of political convenience and confuse the people of Ghana. We will not follow that path. We are principled. We believe that at the Supreme Court, the president has the mandate to nominate and go through the process of Judicial Council and Council of State. So we will not stampede the process, but we must point out that our friends don't believe in any principle. Now let us also point out that for these Supreme Court justices, there was no such proper motion even on the floor for the purposes of suspending our standing orders. There is no decision of the House resolving that these justices be vetted just within 3 days after the announcement was made to the members of Parliament and referral made to the committee. Now, proceeding to vet these nominees bring to the fore some dangers. We want to point them out. One danger is that a nominee may carry a permanent shadow over its legitimacy. Every ruling these three justices have ever made, every dispute that matters to this nation will be met by a question. Were you properly vetted? Were you installed in a hurry to suit one government convenience? That question will not go away. It will follow every judgment that they sign for the rest of their career. Again, the danger of a president that no future Ghana can undo. Let me point out that since 1992, all Supreme Court nominees have gone through the process of being properly vetted. Notice to the public have always met the minimum 2 weeks per our practice. This is the first time the NDC is using its supermajority to vet Supreme Court nominees in just 3 days after announcement. And we want to explain to the people of Ghana that deferring vetting would cost nothing, and the haste would cost everything. We must say it plainly because the country deserves plain speech. Deferring the vetting of these three nominees by few weeks harms no one. Yes, the courts are presently in vacation, but vacation is not closure. Where a matter is truly pressing, the Supreme Court sits during vacation and rules on the urgent question of law before it, exactly as our practice has always allowed. The administration of justice in this country has not come to a halt for a single day. No case that genuinely can not wait has been left to wait. There is no queue of litigants whose justice is delayed because these three have not yet taken the oath. Anyone who tells you Supreme Court have gone silent is asking you to believe a fiction. Now weigh that against what his costs. A justice confirmed in 4 days or 3 days without proper time for the public to raise concerns under Order 21710, without the subject committee members properly seated under Order 2172, carries that shadow onto the bench for the rest of a working life. That is not a cost this nation pays once. It is a cost we pay every single time that justice signs a judgment that shapes this country's future. The FERA also protect the nominees themselves. Justice Bernasco Issa, Justice Amuako Asante, and Mr. Tony Forson deserve a process that gives their appointment unquestioned legitimacy, not one that hands their critics, fairly or not, a talking point about how quickly they arrived on the bench. A nominee who is properly vetted enters that courtroom with the authority of a process the whole nation can respect. A nominee rushed through in 3 days enters carrying a question that mark no ruling can ever fully erase. If we truly believe these three are equal to the task, then we should want them vetted properly, precisely so that no one can ever say otherwise. And deferral costs the majority nothing either, except the small inconvenience of doing this right. Nothing in our constitution or our standing orders penalizes a committee for taking time under Order 2674. 3 months is the ordinary rule Nobody loses a single privilege of government by allowing this committee the weeks it needs. The only thing anyone loses is the political convenience of announcing 3 justices before this recall closes tomorrow. That convenience is not worth what it costs the country. This is why we say, respectfully but firmly, that responsible cause is not a rush. It is to defer. Let the committee take the time our own rules already allow. Let the public speak under Order 21710. Let the relevant committees be properly seated under Order 2172. Let these 3 nominees arrive on our highest bench, carrying the full, unquestioned legitimacy that only a proper process can give them. That is no obstruction by us. That is this House doing its constitutional duty. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, there is no vacancy and there is no emergency. We want to be very correct with an impression that has been allowed to take root because plain speech demands it. These 3 nominees are not filling vacancies on the Supreme Court. There is no vacancy on the bench today that without these nominees being approved, the court cannot be properly empaneled or constituted. The Supreme Court currently sits with its full complement of justices, hearing cases and handing down judgment as it should. What the president is proposing is not to urgently replace anyone who has left. It is to add 3 further justices to the members already sitting there. If there is no vacancy to fill, there is certainly no emergency compelling anyone to fill it inside for 3 days. Compare that with what happened only last year. Ghana lost ministers of state in a tragic helicopter crash in the Ashanti region. Those were real vacancies in real ministries at the heart of government. The president waited for 1 full year before naming replacement. 1 full year. If filling those 2 genuine ministerial vacancies that truly been an emergency, he would not have waited for that long. So we ask again, if a full year was acceptable for real vacancies in government, why is 3 days now being treated as an emergency for seats on the Supreme Court that are not even vacant? There is no fire here. Yes, this is the judicial vacation, but the administration of justice has not entirely come to a halt. Where it is absolutely necessary, the Supreme Court is sitting and deciding the questions of law that cannot wait. Nothing about our justice system is on life support because 3 additional justices have not yet joined the bench. Nobody should be made to believe otherwise. Still, we repeat our offer in good faith. We are ready to vet the 2 ministerial nominees fairly and promptly. What we will not accept is the 3 Supreme Court nominees being rushed through as though the court cannot function another week without them. And ladies and gentlemen of the press, let me break something down. We are in the month of August. We have the whole of September. Committees can even work when the House is not sitting. So if the 2 weeks is dealt with, the committee can still come in September, somewhere in the 2nd week of September, and vet these nominees. We can get our report done, and when Parliament resumes in October, still pass them or take a decision on them before the legal year begins. So why the rush? Again, we see the NDC government breaking its own promise. When this government got into office in a commanding majority in this House, its own leaders stood before Ghana and promised restraint. They promised the country they would not abuse the numbers the people have given them. That promise did not survive long. It has been tested and broken again and again since this government took its seat. What the majority is pressing to do with these 3 Supreme Court nominations is not a new departure. It is simply the latest chapter in the broken promises. And it is a terrible culture that must end. It betrays the mandate of the Ghanaian people. A majority that keeps finding new ways to bend the rules to its convenience should not be surprised when the country stops believing its next promise of restraint. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the press, let me deal with the real emergencies which are sitting untouched. While the majority races to install 3 new justices in 3 days, 2 matters of genuine national emergency sit untouched, ignored, ready and waiting. This country is still waiting for answers on $1.7 billion in losses connected to Gold Board and Bank of Ghana, equivalent of 22 billion Ghana cedi losses. That is public money. That is the nation's money. A loss of that scale threatens the fiscal health of our economy, the strength of our currency, and the confidence of every Ghanaian who depends on sound banking system. If anything deserves the word emergency, it is a hazard of that size to our national purse. This country also lived through nationwide power outages that put lives at the risk and expose our national security to real danger. Hospitals depend on the steady power, security installations depend on steady power, water systems depend on steady power. In one instance, it took our engineers several days, running one into the next, to restore power fully across the country. Those are emergencies in the truest sense of the word, a threat to our economy measured in billions of cedis, a threat to our security measured in days without power and in lives placed at risk. We are grateful that the Speaker admitted our motion on the loss of $2 billion for the consideration of this House. We commend him for that patriotic stance, but we must place something on record today, honestly and respectfully. The Speaker has, in his own wisdom, decided not to allow the motion to be moved during this special sitting. We have every serious reservations about that. A matter of this magnitude, a matter that touches the very integrity of our economy and our financial institutions, deserve to be heard without delay. However, we are patient. We will respect the Speaker and will respect the decision to take it when Parliament regularly resumes by October. However, what we see is the NDC's unprincipled position. Whilst they want our motion to wait, they are in a haste to vet ministers. We can't accept that. We see that the majority today is not ready to engage. All they want is their political convenience. Our call to the nation, to the Ghana Bar Association, to our retired justices, to the judicial service, to SHRAJ, to every professional body that cares about our courts. We want all of you to speak now. Tell the country whether 3 days is enough to vet 3 Supreme Court justices without putting out a public notice to allow the public to participate through a public memorandum. To civil society, our faith leaders, our chiefs, our queens, to every Ghanaian watching this broadcast, this is not the majority against the minority. This is whether we still believe our highest court deserves more care than 96 hours can give it. To the media, keep asking one question. Question the majority. What is the real emergency here? And to the majority, it is not too late to step back. Work with us on the 2 ministerial nominees, on a fair and sensible timetable, but abandon this plot to force through 3 Supreme Court vetting before tomorrow closes. And to our President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, we pray you kindly reach out to your members and let them know that everything they do, every misstep today goes against your legacy. You brought the nominations, the Speaker has read them out and referred to the committee. What you didn't ask the majority to do is to rush them through and stampede the process. As we have already said, committees of parliament have onerous responsibilities. They serve as the fulcrum in the performance of the functions of parliament. That is why it is said that parliament is as strong as its committees make it. In that regard, nothing should be done to impede or stampede any committee in the performance of its functions. Mr. President, you have been a member of parliament before. You have served on committees on parliament. This is what your members are doing here. They are trying to use their supermajority to stampede the committee of parliament in the performance of its duties. Please call them to order. Again, as provided for under Article 1033, committees are charged with the responsibility of investigation and inquiry into the activities of MDAs, and in this case, into the performance of nominees to establish their qualification, eligibility, and suitability to occupy the office or position assigned to them respectively. This must be thorough, and it requires a thorough job. Mr. President, again, we plead with you. Kindly engage your caucus. It is your nomination. Everything they do today stands for or against your legacy. We are not against the nominees. We are not against the decision by you to nominate justices to the Supreme Court. Although we are against the decision on the basis of your own principle. But we believe if the right thing is done, all of us can work together as Democrats, engage and get the right thing done. This is why in the wisdom of our framers of the Constitution, these provisions were in the Constitution to allow Parliament in its wisdom to deal with all these things. In closing, it is our submission that if this plot goes ahead regardless, we will not treat it as an end of the matter. Every objection we raise this week goes into permanent record of this House, and and if it becomes necessary, any Ghanaian, not only members of Parliament, has a right under the relevant provision of the Constitution to assert his rights. We did not choose this fight. It was brought to the doorstep of this Parliament and to the doorstep of the court itself by an unreasonable majority that does not want to reason with us, but to go with their supermajority and act out of political convenience. We are asking all Ghanaians to join us in bringing the majority to order. We rest our case. Thank you very much.
And make our nation great and strong, the cause of freedom and of right. Fill our hearts with true humility, make us cherish fearless honesty, and help us to resist oppressors with all our will and might forevermore. And help us to resist oppressors with all our will and might forevermore.